Shortest YouTube intro ever. What's up? Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're watching. Hit like, hit subscribe. We're talking tight ends right now on Fantasy Football Today. And it is Cinco de Mayo. Have a very festive day, everybody. Welcome to the show, giving you our updated tight end rankings after the NFL draft and, of course, after the DeAndre Hopkins suspension. That's a big one as well. It factors in here. Hey, we haven't really talked about Robert Tonyan. Can he make a comeback? I know he's a riser in at least Jamie's rankings here, but no Devontae Adams. And they do draft Christian Watson, but maybe an opportunity for Tonyan, who was a top 3 tight end just 2 seasons ago. We'll talk about Cole Kmet. We'll talk about Irv Smith. We'll talk about Albert O. Do you guys like my Albert O nickname?
You stole it from me, so that's good.
Did I?
Yeah, when they drafted Dulcich, I tweeted Albert O no.
Oh, sorry. What did I write? Albert O no, there goes my fantasy value.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I didn't.
I have a question for Heath because Heath has to listen to these all the time. What is more cringeworthy to you? Adam's YouTube intros or my start to every FFT episode where I have to stare in the camera and tell everybody what's happening on today's show?
No, yours is generally a little bit more buttoned down. So it's generally, and so his are more cringeworthy, I would say.
I do really enjoy the occasional time where Jamie's intros just go off the rails.
Yeah.
Because it makes me feel so much better about myself.
Right.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So for a year, for our season, we did these, and I never prepared for them. This is an actual live buttoned up show that we, overproduce at times, and you would think that I would have something ready to say, and for the most part, as are yours, Adam. During the season, you know what you're doing every day. Monday's this day, Tuesday's this. You know what the shows are every day. So you would think I'd have some idea of, okay, I'm going to say this on this day, this on this. But I sit down there and literally all right, 3, 2, oh no, what? Yeah, go.
No, I feel the same way. It's like I'll prep for a show, I'll put time into it. Not every show, it's put the same amount of time, and then I just don't put any time into the intro or the outro. And then we're about to do the show. I'm like, what am I going to say right now? I want to make it good. I want to catch people's attention, and I end up tripping over my words.
I think my favorite thing is when you talk openly about how bad the intro was, and then 45 minutes later, the outro is worse. That's what I really like.
Yeah, but it's a fraction of the people actually hear the outro, so that's okay. Question to start today's show. What is your go-to order at a Mexican restaurant? All right. It's in honor of Cinco de Mayo. And that's the one day that I definitely don't get Mexican food because I don't want to wait 3 hours. What is your go-to order at a Mexican restaurant?
I'm a pretty simple taco guy. So you got the best places, in my opinion, if it's homemade guacamole. Like Rocco's Tacos in South Florida.
Oh, yeah. Rocco's Tacos guac is so good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a tacos guy too. Like always the guac. And since we gave a shout out to one South Florida taco place, I'll say that my favorite right now is Los Picados. Used to be in a gas station on 441. Now they've got a storefront. I believe Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives went there once. It's fantastic.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm a burrito guy, and tacos don't fill me up. I think that's my issue. There's just not enough of it.
You could just get more of them.
You could, but I feel like the way they're priced is not enough bang for the buck. So I'm a burrito guy for sure. Anyway, hope you all have a wonderful Cinco de Mayo. Now, the other question before we get into tight ends, we're having a discussion off the air before the show. Heath is working on his updated dynasty running back rankings, and he's trying to figure out if he's going to leave Breece Hall at number 2 overall. And that's not in rookie drafts. That's Jonathan Taylor 1, Breece Hall 2. So, Heath, where are you at in your thought process there, the number 2 running back behind Jonathan Taylor in Dynasty?
Yeah, basically. And I try to use a bit of a formula factoring in age, 2022 projection, upside, risk, all those things into it. And then I'll massage it a little bit with how I feel. But I've got Breece Hall, Najee Harris, Christian McCaffrey, DeAndre Swift, Javonte Williams, all kind of right there in the same tier. So he's either 2 through 6. And I just look at it, and most of those guys, I guess half those guys, Swift and Javonte, are also going to be in some sort of timeshare, like Hall is. And the other two, Najee's 3 years older than Breece Hall. McCaffrey's 5 and has had the injury risks. And so right now, I think, we've talked about it a lot. I think prospect-wise, Hall is better than Harris, Williams, or Swift. And age-wise, he has such a huge edge on McCaffrey that I think I'm going to leave him at 2.
Jamie, what do you think? Who would be number 2 for you behind Taylor?
Harris. And I probably would still put Swift ahead of him as well. But I think, he summed it up. It's a lot of this really comes down to, is Michael Carter going to be a problem? And to what extent? And how good can this Jets offense be? And so I wonder, like, Heath, because Dave brought this up on, I think it was on HQ, about the San Francisco offense. I think he said it here too. The San Francisco offense and how much of it will be replicated by the Jets. And we saw it a little bit last year, when they used multiple guys. But clearly the talent pool is ramped up a little bit, So whereas Carter was the 1, now Carter as the 2, how much will they split carries with those guys? I'm of the belief, and I think, Adam, you said it perfectly. When you have a guy, you use that guy. And I think the Jets will realize that Breece Hall is that guy, to the detriment, unfortunately, of Michael Carter. But we just don't know that. And so, if this was, let's say, San Francisco drafting Breece Hall, would you feel the same? If going to a team where you kind of anticipate a pretty significant split, or at least, close to a split. I know San Francisco did that last year with Elijah Mitchell, but, they kind of had their hand held a little bit by not trusting Trey Sermon and Mostert being hurt.
Yeah, I think there is a split, and the thing will be how big is it? Right now, I have his split pretty similar to what I have for Javonte and for Swift, and it's probably pretty close to 60. Now, you might expect more targets for Swift, and Javonte is kind of up in the air in that regard, just because all the weapons they have in Denver, and the fact that Russell Wilson hasn't thrown to his running backs, and the fact that he just split targets last year with Melvin Gordon. So the catches might be the one thing I'd be uncertain about. But the other thing, and we've talked about this a lot this offseason, the transition period at running back. There are so few guys under 25 years old who you could say you think, like Jonathan Taylor's a workhorse back. Najee Harris is a workhorse back. I don't know if there's another guy under 25 who is. They're all in some sort of committee.
So how much older is Javonte Williams than Breece Hall?
I think a year.
Is it fair to say that if you were, let's say you were taking the 2022 season off and you were doing, I feel like next year Javonte Williams might just be completely unleashed. I feel like this is definitely the last year for.
See, that's if you were taking a year off. If you were rebuilding, I think it's easily Hall. I
don't know. I don't know. Just really loved.
You're saying that because you expect Hall to be tied to Carter again next year?
No, I'm saying because I just trust the Broncos offense with Russell Wilson much more than I trust the Jets offense. So if I didn't have to worry about Melvin Gordon, really eating into Javonte Williams, I would take Javonte Williams over Hall. I might do it anyway because I think maybe this year you have to bite the bullet. But since it is Breece Hall's rookie year, Javonte might be better than him anyway. And then if they're both turned loose next year, I'm probably going to like Javonte more with Russell Wilson as his quarterback. Just a better setup in the near future than unless Zach Wilson really takes off, that would change things. But I think a better setup than Breece Hall. Because I don't think Gordon's a problem.
I mean, in theory, it makes sense.
Right. Well, that's why, I'll let next week come out with dynasty tiers, and Hall, Javonte, Swift, Harris, they're all going to be in the same tier. So I don't have a big argument. I did a Twitter poll just to kind of see how crazy I was. And only 9% of people think Hall should be RB2, but 63% think he's top 5. So, it's not that big of an argument, really.
I think just after seeing Harris as a rookie, it's hard to, for me at least, to take Hall over him.
Let's see. Breece Hall. Okay, never mind. I was going to say, I thought they had similar birthdays, but they don't. Yeah, Javonte Williams is a little bit less than a year older than Breece Hall. Okay, we are getting into tight ends now. First, let me promote something. If you have smart speakers, it is so easy to listen to our podcast. If you have smart speakers, it's not so easy to watch our podcast. But if you want to listen, say, Alexa, play the latest episode of the Fantasy Football Today podcast. Or, hey, Google, play the latest episode of the Fantasy Football Today podcast. Bam, you'll be listening. Did the NFL draft change your tight end rankings at all, Jamie?
Yes.
Okay, and how so?
I didn't know there was a second part of that. It's the draft and the suspension. So first off, the suspension for DeAndre Hopkins, I moved up Zach Ertz because we saw what Ertz did last year when Hopkins was not on the field. So he moved up a couple of spots. I moved up Cole Kmet because the Bears, in my opinion, did not do enough to address their receiving core. I dropped Albert O because of the Greg Dulcich addition. I think he's a significant enough pass catcher out of UCLA that will impact the upside for Albert O. Still worth drafting as a second tight end if you're inclined to, but no longer where I had him ranked, which was as a number 1 guy. I moved up Robert Tonyan because I think the Packers, mostly Aaron Rodgers, and his affinity to lean on guys that he trusts. I think getting Tonyan back from the injury and the only additions being a second-round wide receiver, and I forget what round they took. Doubs, how do you count?
Romeo Doubs in the 4th.
Romeo Doubs in the 4th. Not enough to necessarily sway the veteran targets from losing value. I think in some cases, specifically Tonyan at the tight end position, gained some value. So I moved those guys around. I'm still torn, and I'm sure we'll talk about this since we're talking tight end rankings. Waller versus Kittle. The fact that Deebo Samuel has now refollowed all the 49ers on social media. Sounds like there's probably a deal coming, or everything is on the up and up. I don't know again what that means for George Kittle or not. It's more so about if Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback. But for now, I still have Waller 1 spot ahead of Kittle. And then I moved up, Andrews a few spots closer to round 1, but still in round 2.
Oh, that was a very good summary there. So if you
want a third question, I could probably answer that too.
Okay, here it is. If you removed all mentions of CBS from your Twitter profile, do you think anyone would notice, or there'd be any type of buzz?
For me, no.
How about you, Heath? Did you make what changes did you make after the draft?
I don't think I'm going to try that someday. Just see what happens. It'd be kind of fun. Almost everything Jamie said. I actually moved Ertz down after the Marquise Brown trade and then back to where I had him after the DeAndre Hopkins suspension. So he is right where he was. I had Andrews ahead of Kelce at the beginning of the offseason. And then when the Tyreek Hill trade happened, I moved Kelce ahead of Andrews. And then when the Marquise Brown trade happened, I moved Andrews back ahead of Kelce. Other than that, I think everything Jamie said is exactly what I did.
Anything drastic? If you were writing a column, the changes I made to my rankings after the NFL draft, what would the headliner be?
I just thought it would be really good. Albert, oh no.
What would the biggest story be, though?
That was it.
Albert O?
He was the biggest mover for me because I was all in essentially. I thought with Noah Fant gone that, what we saw from him in some, small sample sizes last year was enough to take a chance on him as the lead of that group of about 7 or 8 guys that will all be competing, in my opinion, for, tight end 12 in my rankings, but, factoring in Freiermuth also, basically 11 through like 17. So I like the setup for Cole Kmet the best, but Irv Smith is in that group. Mike Gesicki is in that group. David Njoku is in that group. Noah Fant is in that group. So now Tonyan for me is in that group. So there's a lot of guys that I think you can, make a case for. Certainly can make a case against. But I think Alberto loses because, if it was more of a lesser rated prospect at the position, I'd be more comfortable with it. Greg Dulcich, you can make a case, is the best tight end in this class. I would take Trey McBride, but he's certainly right up there with him.
And there's not any question that Dulcich is a better prospect than Albert O was, right?
Yes, he's a better prospect.
Alberto was I don't know what kind of prospect he was, but he was very impressive at Missouri. I was disappointed that he ended up on Denver because I remember liking him and learning how to say his name and all that, and he didn't really have a path to success with Noah Fant there. And we don't expect much from rookie tight ends to begin with.
It's kind of funny that we just said Alberto like 17 times, and you're talking about remembering how to say his name.
Alberto Kuwait.
Is it hard to learn how to say Alberto?
I remember watching an interview with him where he's telling people how to pronounce his name.
Right.
So, but now he's
good. Say it more often.
Yeah, no, we don't have enough time for that. So I guess I feel like I'm the only one who's worried about Dallas Goedert, but that would have been the headliner for me. And what it comes down to with Goddard, I don't know what this means to you, but he was out targeted by Zach Ertz when Zach Ertz was there. And now you had AJ Brown, and I don't know if Devontae Smith takes another step. I do not see room for 3 productive players in this passing game, for Philadelphia, even though they are going to throw more. I know they're not going to be last in the NFL in pass attempts, but still, it's not the best offense for it. You've got AJ Brown now. You've got hopefully an emerging wide receiver in Smith. I really didn't like it for Goddard, and I know you didn't like it either, but it doesn't seem like you guys are all that concerned. So I guess I'll just throw out that little controversial, spicy take. Basically not.
Well, I guess it's that group of Hawkinson, Goddard, Ertz. I'll still put Gronk in there because of the expectation that he's back. And I guess you got to put, based on how we're going to see drafts go, Freiermuth. Does Goddard not belong in that group for you?
Say the group again.
Hawkinson, who got company, obviously. Goddard, Gronk, if he's back.
Yeah.
Freiermuth, and Ertz.
He belongs in that group. If anything, it just solidified my desire to take a top 5 tight end, because I thought Goddard was a really good fallback option, and now I just think he's a meh fallback option. And by the way, I would have Gronk clearly ahead of that group if he comes back. But yeah, I don't know that he would drop that much in the rankings, but maybe it's just a bigger separation between him and the 5 guys that everybody wants. I guess that's how I'd sum it up.
Fair.
It makes sense, and it's kind of back to great or late again. If you're not comfortable with this group, then take a chance on 1 guy or 2 guys.
Here's a cool stat on Goddard.
I mean, I did that in the draft Tuesday. I took Kmet and Robert.
Okay. Goddard had 5 or more targets in 9 games. He scored 12 or more PPR fantasy points in 7 of those 9 games with only 5 or more targets. That's really, really good. So he was really good when he was targeted. He also, I don't think he didn't catch a touchdown from Jalen Hurts in those last, when they became really run heavy. He caught the touchdowns from Gardner Minshew in that one game against the Jets. He had 105 yards and 2 touchdowns.
And I think that the thing is, does the addition of AJ
and that was going to be an awesome sentence.
I know. What is going on here, man? We've just had so many issues lately. Does the addition of AJ Brown, Heath was going to say, I think I know what he's going to say. He's going to say, does the addition of AJ Brown change the tight end targets? Because he thinks that Nick Sirianni's offense is going to throw to the tight ends, basically.
Well,
regardless.
It should, based on what we've seen. I think it's, when you talk about Hawkinson and you talk about Goddard, because they're kind of in a similar situation, right? They both got crowded receiving courts. They both have, quarterback situations that you can question. Is Goff still an upper echelon guy, or, in that I don't know, upper echelon, but is Goff still a above average quarterback like we saw with the Rams and at times last year? And can he support multiple targets? Is Jalen Hurts going to take the next step? And is there going to be the opportunity for all these guys, in this offense? And so, you see the upside and you see the potential of both of them, but are they going to be the unicorns that we're chasing all the time, of these next great tight ends? So Andrews, you saw the path, and it was always a question of, can they support multiple targets? Well, Andrews, proved that. Kelce is kind of the guy that you like to avoid in theory because crowded receiving core, but he's just such a special part of it. And the guy there, especially now, that he's different. But, we're going to find out a lot about Darren Waller, right? And Derek Carr.
Yeah.
And we're going to find out a lot about Trey Lance, and can he get, George Kittle those opportunities that we're used to seeing. So there's obviously a lot of questions with several players, and you say, you want to get one of these top tier guys. Is it really just the top 2? And Kyle Pitts, we still have a lot of questions.
All right, so I was going to save this for later in the show, but I think let's do it now.
Well, let's finish his thought on AJ Brown.
Was it about the targets in the Nick Sirianni offense?
Yes, and whether they go to tight ends or wide receivers.
Yeah. We talked about that on FFT and 5, so I had a feeling you were going there. But let's talk about Kelce and Andrews and whether or not they should be first-round picks. And, basically, I made the case that so many tight ends other than them have had bad off seasons, right? Whether it's adding a target or losing a quarterback in Kyle Pitts' case or whatever it is, I don't know that you can say that their values have gone up, where clearly for Kelce and Andrews, losing Tyreek Hill, Marquise Brown, that's going to probably mean more targets. We agree there?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
You got to turn.
But how many times have we kind of, aside from Kelce, gotten burnt by this a little bit with the second guy, like Waller?
In what regard?
Taking them in the first round.
Oh, I thought you meant the targets thing. Yeah, right. It's not that easy. Kelce's the only guy who's been year after year.
Right. And we did this, once upon a time, is our Gronk and Graham first round picks, and it's a tough position. Like Kittle, I think is proven if you block, you're risky. Andrews isn't at the same level of blocker that Kittle is. And this is such a tricky thing to say because I don't think Heath is advocating to take these guys in the middle of the first round. So when you're taking them at the back end of the first round, you probably have a pool of about 4 or 5 guys that you're looking at. So if you're picking 10 through 12, there's a great chance that if you take one of those tight ends, you have still the opportunity to take one of the players that you like in the second round. So if you want to guarantee one of those guys to avoid the person picking after you, you take them. I don't have a problem with that. So like Scott Fish, who appreciate you watching again, picked a 10 in the mock draft we did on Tuesday. He took Kelce. I don't know who he ended up with in the second round, but it was probably somebody that he had in mind. Who?
Debo.
Oh, it was probably somebody they had in mind to take in round 1. I don't think he would have taken Debo in round 1, but he had the opportunity to take a player of still great quality.
Well, let's talk about the next 2 picks. The next 2 picks after he took Kelce, I think he took him 10th. I forgot who went 11th, but then Dave took Mixon and Cook. So, do you take Kelce or Andrews over Joe Mixon and Dalvin Cook?
I wouldn't, but
Kamara, Mixon, Cook were the next 3 picks.
Right, and so Chris played it. I know Chris took Andrews at the second pick around 2. So Chris probably knew Dave wouldn't do it, knowing how Dave drafts, and so that's a big part of it, knowing your league. So he decided, let me get my favorite running back that was available for him, was Kamara, and let the chips fall how they do.
And I've got them 11 and 12. So like basically the very last picks of the first round. And I think also if you get to pick 11, and Scott was at pick 10, so he didn't know this for sure. If I get to pick 11 and they're both still there, then I'll take somebody I have ranked lower at 11, knowing that one of them is going to be there with the second pick of the second round. So as somebody once said long ago, those are all basically first round picks.
They are. They really are. But let me ask
the challenge for this though is if you really want one of them and you're picking 6 through 8 or 6 through 9, because then you're taking away the control you have about who you're getting in the second round.
Yeah, and if Kyle Pitts ends up being something like a late round 3, early round 4 pick, would you rather have Kelce and Andrews near the 1-2 turn or Kyle Pitts near the 3-4?
Pitts.
I think I'd probably take Kelce and Andrews.
So, like, I'll tell you the way I built the team. I had no intention of going running back. I had the 8th pick, I think it was. And Najee Harris fell to me, so that was easy. And then in round 2, DeAndre Swift fell to me. I was thinking, just the way that the first round was unfolding, that I was going to take CeeDee Lamb in that spot. And so had I gone Lamb in round 2, I would have taken Kyle Pitts in round 3. But since it's a 3-receiver league, I took a receiver in round 3, which ended up making Michael Thomas. I passed on Kyle Pitts. So had it gone the way that I thought, which was going to be, probably running back round 1, one of those receivers, whether it was going to be Diggs, Lamb, or Adams went in round 1. But Diggs or Lamb were probably the targets as the draft was unfolding. And then, we had talked about, I think you asked me, what was my plan in round 3 or tight end plan, I think. I would have taken Pitts if he was there. Or he was there. I would have taken Pitts if I had gone a different route.
Okay, so I'm taking a look at NFC ADP from
I hear Chris Godwin's low in NFC.
from April 1st till the 27th, the day before the draft. Kelce was going 16th, and Andrews was going 21st or 22nd. I'll try to update it and go April 28th to, let's just do May 4th. I know there's not going to be a lot of drafts. And I just want to see if they've moved up at all. Sorry for this. Kelce is 15th, and Andrews is, where are you, Mark Andrews? Yeah, 23rd. Hasn't changed. But I don't know. I think it may have only been one draft. But I think in our draft, like in the draft that we did on Tuesday, I do think Andrews went earlier than he had, when we did our post.
He definitely did. But I mean, like he said, things have changed clearly.
Yeah, so right. So you can't wait. You can't, like Jamie said, if you have picks 6 through 9 or whatever, you just may not be able to wait and say, oh, Kelce Andrews is going to fall to me in round 2. It just might not happen.
But I think as we're starting to see here, especially now that the NFL draft is done, and clearly, I think our audience, especially the people that have been, diligently watching us, you have an idea of kind of what the first round is going to look like, and we didn't expect, the rookies to necessarily change, the first 2 rounds. Dramatically, but there have been some things that have changed. And so if you're in the camp of, I need a running back with one of my first 2 picks. So if you decide I'm going to take Kelce or Andrews in, let's just say pick 7, that in round 2, the running back pool that you're probably looking at is, we saw Leonard Fournette go, so let's say Fournette, James Conner, Aaron Jones, maybe you see, maybe Nick Chubb, depending on the format. Maybe you see, if reports are bad by any stretch, or certainly a suspension for Alvin Kamara. But one of those guys slip. It was a little surprising to see Dalvin Cook slip into round 2. But that you're going to have the opportunity to get one of those receivers there. If you like the group of Debo, CeeDee Lamb, I think Devontae will end up settling there. Tyreek Hill will be in that range. One of those guys. It's certainly not a bad way to build your team. You just know that you're missing, one of those potential top 5 running backs.
And it is kind of like, just going back to the Pitts thing, because I've been thinking about that, because I have him right at the 3-4 turn as well. And I've been trying to think of the right way to say this, but it's kind of funny that Kyle Pitts last year scored 10 fantasy points per game. If he'd scored 4 touchdowns, it would have been 11. If he scored 7 touchdowns, it would have been 12, and he would have been tied in 5 per game. And his quarterback situation got worse. And they added a real number 1 wide receiver to go alongside him. And he's being drafted basically in the same spot or higher.
He would have been tight end 5 if he had scored 7 touchdowns.
6 touchdowns would be 36 points, which is basically 2 points per game, right? Over 17 games.
Mm-hmm.
And tight end 4 was Kittle at 14.3. So he didn't, I believe so.
You're right. He would have been behind Andrews, Kelce, Kittle, and Gronk. Kittle and Gronk, I see them at both at 14.3, and this would have made Pitts about 13. Oh no, about 12.4. You said, or two points per game.
Yeah, 12.7 or something, a little more than 2 points per game.
Okay, so a little bit better than Dalton Schultz. Yeah, I mean that is interesting. I don't really know how to explain it.
Well, he's awesome, and he was a rookie tight end, and he was awesome,
right.
And so I get it. But just looking at like what he produced and how his situation got, I think, demonstrably worse, and we just do not care.
Well, I think the hope would be is that
go.
This is the leap year, for these tight ends, the good ones and potentially great ones. And, you hear a lot, it was really interesting just in the coaches that I've spoken to, recently, about just especially the last 2 years, really. And I think you guys heard me mention this. Heath didn't, but I spoke to Jonathan Taylor after the mock draft was over on Tuesday. And, I asked him, just what this offseason has been like for him. He's like, this is my first real offseason, for what these guys have had to deal with because of COVID protocols. And he's like, for the last 2 years, we'd be doing these things over Zoom. because they're just finishing, their rookie camp or whatever they call it now. That all these coaches are saying just how much these guys are going to get, especially the guys that go through the draft process, because it's, draft, moving, finding a place to live, going to the city that they live in, getting accustomed to everything, and then just what these guys have been through. So he's the alpha. I mean, there's nothing about this offense that is not screaming Kyle Pitts. Drake London's got a chance to be a star, and Cordero Patterson was certainly a good player last year. But this is, if the Falcons over Marcus Mariota's locker room do not have a picture of Kyle Pitts on every wall of that locker, that he just knows that that's the guy he's got to look for, I'd be disappointed. So I think he's going to lead the position in targets, if not be right up there with it. And if he gets those chances, he's just got superstar written all over him.
Yeah, he's a pretty exciting player, and that will be an interesting decision.
Since you want to play the Ken Dorsey game?
He did go to the University of Florida, and maybe we should do a bet whose quarterback gets drafted higher in the 2023 NFL draft, because both of them are Miami's and Florida's quarterback. Both are, guys we're going to be talking about a lot this time next year.
Depends. Who's getting more NIL money?
Probably Miami's guy. That's what we do. We've just bought a lot of very good players lately. Yeah. I'm rooting for the Yankees in two. I love it. I don't. You love it? It's chaos.
I absolutely
chaos.
Love it. What?
It's chaos.
It's the way things are meant to work.
Okay. So let's take a break. When we come back, we still have some other tight ends to talk about. Let's talk about Irv Smith, who's in the top 12 for Heath. Let's talk about Cole Kmet, maybe a little more on Robert Tonyan. Have some emails to read as well. We will be right back. Oh, we also have some news and notes. We'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. And we're back with our news and notes. A couple of Eagles notes. Jalen Hurts had off-season ankle surgery. He says he is good now. Jalen Reagor could still be a trade candidate, according to The Athletic. I have an email. I'm going to read the email right now. It is from Corey. 10-team Dynasty Superflex. What are we doing with Reagor and Quez Watkins?
10-team?
10-team.
Yeah.
I mean, Watkins is droppable.
Yeah.
Trade Reagor for the Eagles so that you could see if he has a chance somewhere else. I mean, he's done in Philly.
Yeah, you don't drop Reagor, right? But you drop Watkins.
I could drop Reagor.
I think it depends. So our league, Heath, is how many roster spots? 20.
Well, it's so hard because it's IDP too. But
but still
28.
So my other dynasty league is 28 roster spots, and that's no defense, no IDPs. Right. So you have deep rosters. It's not worth dropping him yet. But we get to the season, and he's still the third receiver for the Eagles at best. Yeah. 10-team league, especially if you have to make decisions on rookie picks.
And there's a lot of talk. There has been all throughout the process about Kenny Pickett, Pittsburgh rookie quarterback, Kenny Pickett's hand size. He will have the smallest hands of any starting quarterback in the NFL.
Do you empathize with him as having the smallest hands of any podcast hosts in the industry?
And not only, I don't have just small hands. I have small fat hands.
I don't have just small hands.
I didn't emphasize hands that way. I emphasize small. Okay.
Oh, another good thing to say.
I've got these small fat hands that just are useless. So at least Kenny Pickett doesn't have that issue. But there is an ESPN article giving the hand size of every starting quarterback in the NFL. Taysom Hill has the smallest. This was, when he was a starting quarterback. But Joe Burrow, Ryan Tannehill, and Jared Goff are next at 9 inches. Kenny Pickett is at 8.25, I think, 8.5. 8.5 inches. Joe Burrow's at 9. He's got the second smallest, depending on counting Taysom Hill, second or smallest hand size in the NFL. But
nice that you've done all this research.
The guys with the biggest hands are amazing. Look at the biggest hands. Russell Wilson has the biggest hands. Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, and then you've got a three-way. You also, with Stafford, Prescott, and Herbert, you've got Lawrence, Carson Wentz, and Tua Tagovailoa.
But what do they say about hand size, don't you?
I don't know what they say about hand size, Jimmy. What do they say?
I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I don't either. Maybe I'll find
big
out.
love, big
Maybe
love.
I'll find out when everyone in the house is asleep, Jamie.
Big.
Schrager hates it when we make adult jokes.
Well, because he's still a child.
Yeah, he's like 18 years old.
If
These
Ben,
are kind
if
of
Ben
child
didn't,
jokes.
have the ability to grow a beard 10 minutes after he shaved, he would still look like he's 12.
Who? Ben or Heath?
Well,
Ben.
all three of you.
Both.
You guys shave, and 10 minutes later, you guys have a beard again.
Oh,
I've had to grow this for about 10 years.
You're the most baby-faced person on the show, I'd say.
Me?
What do you think, Schrager? Yeah.
Until Ben Gretsch is back on Monday.
Oh, yeah. Ben Gretsch is baby-faced. Patrick Courtney says Adam hand-size comment and the grunts for the new intro. All right, we can work on that. So let me ask you.
Yeah, after everybody goes to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. More tight end questions. Who do you like better, Cole Kmet or Irv Smith?
I like Kmet better because of his opportunity to, be number 2 in targets there. But I certainly have been an Irv Smith fan for a couple of years now. I just hope he's healthy and 100%.
Yeah, assuming that I've got him ranked as if he is, and assuming he's healthy and 100%, I like Irv better. I think he'll be the number 3 option in the passing game, and I think this offense will be considerably better than the Bears. I'm cooling. I'm trying to hold on to my Justin Fields love, but the Bears have made it very difficult this offseason.
Yeah, there have been no good number 3 options on Minnesota, basically. KJ Osborne last year was the best. He had 655 yards.
Yeah, that was because for most of the past 3 years, they've thrown the ball like 12 times a game.
No, that's actually not true. They've been, in 2 of the last 4 years, they've been 6th and 11th in pass attempts. The other 2, they've been 30th and 27th.
Okay.
So, but I guess the follow-up is, does Irv Smith require Adam Thielen to finally hit the wall in order to really make a difference in fantasy?
I mean, it requires Adam Thielen probably to not score a touchdown every 7 targets, because I think maybe Adam Thielen did hit the wall and he just scored touchdowns last year.
I was surprised. I looked this up. Adam Thielen, his last 2 games, he didn't really play much. Played 8% of the snaps and then 37% of the snaps. So if we remove those 2 games, his 17-game pace in his first 11 games was 97 catches, 1,060 yards, and 15 touchdowns on 139 targets. That's Adam Thielen pre-injury. His pace was 97, 1,060, and 15 on 139 targets. That's better, just better than I thought off the top of my head. I didn't think
the catches are for sure. The yards per catch is exactly what I thought.
All right, next question. Jamie, you mentioned Robert Tonyan as a riser. To where in your rankings, and what do you expect from him?
To that group, like I told you, of Gesicki, Njoku, Fant, Smith, behind Kmet for me. I just, just looking at this Packers receiving core and knowing how Rodgers traditionally has leaned on, more of a veteran type of guy as opposed to a younger player. Again, they've never really been put in a situation where they've lost their number 1 guy without having somewhat of an established player ready to go. And I don't necessarily think that Lazard or what is left of Randall Cobb and the addition of Sammy Watkins fit that mold. So Tonyan could see, potentially an uptick in targets from what he was 2 years ago when he was, as you mentioned, a top 5 fantasy tight end. To what degree, I don't know, but it's just taking a chance on somebody that is in an offense that could, push targets his direction. So certainly red zone targets and those touchdowns. So, when you start to get into this group of tight ends, what are you chasing? Are you chasing guys that are going to be heavily involved? Are you chasing guys that are red zone targets? Are you chasing guys that could, see an increase in opportunities? And I think in a couple of those categories, he checks those boxes. So we'll find out. It's more of a tight end premium thing. It's more of a, I think probably dynasty and long term. Looking at it from leagues that carry 2 tight ends that have these larger rosters. I don't know if he's the type of guy that I would be drafting if I'm looking to carry 2 tight ends in a redraft league, but he's not far off from that, especially based on what we saw 2 years ago.
And I want to go back to the Vikings for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got Irv Smith projected at 90 targets. Last year, Tyler Conklin saw 87. And back in 2018, when they did throw a bunch, Kyle Rudolph had 82 in 16 games. So I don't think there's room for a third option in the passing game as far as a wide receiver. But if a tight end gets 80 to 90 targets and they are somewhat good, that's absolutely top 12.
I will say this, though, this one thing, and take it for what it's worth, but Pete Prisco really tied into that Vikings organization, and they love KJ Osborne. They absolutely love. Now, that could be to the extent of maybe it hurts Adam Thielen. It could be that they're going to run more 3 receiver sets. I think Kevin O'Connell was going to be diverse with his offense, certainly more so than we've seen under Mike Zimmer. So we could see, different personnel groupings for sure. But I feel like, as much as I love Irv Smith, that it's going to take an injury to one of those 3 guys. Hopefully we know who it's not. But if Jefferson or Thielen or Osborne miss time, I think that's where you'll see Irv Smith pop. Otherwise, I think he's kind of a touchdown or bust type of guy.
Jamie, where did KJ Osborne go to college?
He went to the great University of Buffalo before transferring to another school.
Yeah, okay. That's right. That's the answer I was looking for. And Rob Gronkowski. So what are you guys doing with Gronk? He's 10th for Jamie. He's 11th for Dave. He's 18th for Heath. Is this just hedging, or is this where you're going to rank him if he goes back to the Bucs? I can't imagine you're going to keep him 18th. Heath, what are we doing with Gronkowski right now?
I'm hedging. Yeah. And maybe, I don't know. Maybe he'll just show up. I have no real feel for it. And I think every time that I go in to update my rankings after however long it's been since the last time I may drop him a spot. But if he comes back, he's going to be right for me in that Dallas Goedert range, probably somewhere between 7 and 9.
It's not going to be just an easy call to put him ahead of Dallas Goedert at this point?
No, because he's still, 33 years old and has had all kinds of injury problems.
Yeah, but that got so much more upside than Goedert.
He's the one guy that I went through after updating my rankings following the draft. Like, I took out all the players that aren't on teams, in the top 60s. There's like Beckham's still in the top 200, but like I removed all those caliber play, Will Fuller and Jarvis Landry. Put those guys back in. I will at least put those guys back in. Once they sign. I don't know if those get Dave and Heath still have those players ranked, but Gronk was the one he's come back. It's like, what am I wasting my time just moving around? So look, if you're drafting now, we know there's some startup dynasty leagues that are starting, their drafts now, things of that nature. You have to make a tougher call on Gronk. Clearly, dynasty's a riskier decision because of his age. But the stuff that I've read was, I think Gronk, when Brady retired, he thought, okay, I'm done too, and now he's got to talk himself back into, does he want to play again? He doesn't have to report until the summer, so it's not like there's anything that's lingering of him going elsewhere. He's not going elsewhere. He's going to play in Tampa if he plays. So you just have to make that decision, whenever you're drafting.
Let's do some rapid fire rankings disputes right now. Ready? Here we go. You're going to give up to 10 seconds for your answer. Would you rather have TJ Hawkinson or Dallas Goedert?
Goedert.
Hawkinson.
Great. Jamie froze. What the hell is happening to our technology? Jamie, you. Hawkinson or Goedert?
Oh, I said Goedert. I don't think I froze.
Somebody want to back me up here?
I do not think Jamie froze either. I think he said Goedert at the same time that I said Hawkinson. Adam is wrong.
Maybe I froze. I don't know. Jamie went like this. Okay, anyway. Cole Kmet or Dawson Knox?
Kmet.
Cole Kmet, yeah.
One guy that we should talk about, though, not to derail this fun segment.
Yeah, great segment.
Is Freiermuth. Because the quarterback situation has changed and the receiving corps has changed. So does the loss of Juju as a short area target, and we saw it, for a good portion of last season, with the loss of James Washington, plus the addition of George Pickens and Calvin Austin, what those guys are going to bring. With the quarterback change, does that help or hurt Freiermuth? I think he's kind of the same. Like, I think he's still touchdown or bust. But I do think that he's another guy that could take a second-year leap. So he's in the back end of the number one tight ends for me, but it's in that same group. Like I said, you can make a case for Njoku or Smith or Kmet as being better than him this year.
Yeah, I really want to rank Kmet over him. I haven't talked myself into it yet, but I've got him back-to-back at 12 and 13. I mostly don't want to draft Freiermuth as my starting tight end.
Okay, he's not your kind of not your kind of player.
He's really not.
No.
But we know what young quarterbacks tend to lean on at times.
Do they?
Well, there's some, yes.
I'm sure there are throughout the history of football. Yeah. So I think that I get the sense that the general public is going to like Dawson Knox more than you guys are. I'm not sure any of you have him inside your top 15. Want to give me a quick?
He's 25th for me.
Yeah, he's 18th for Jamie, 15th for Dave, and 25th. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's just ridiculous. 25th. Get out of here.
I mean, they just signed one of the most talented tight ends in all of football.
Stop with that. Enough with the belittling me.
I'm not belittling you. No one has belittled you more than you on this show today. But no, I don't have confidence that Knox is going to get the same number of red zone opportunities he did, because I think they'll have more. I think Howard will do a little bit of that. And that was all he was last year, was touchdowns.
It's not just Howard, though. They have a pass catching back now. They have, multiple slot receivers now. Gabriel Davis, hopefully staying healthy, being on the field more, getting more, target opportunities as well. Stephon Diggs still being, the alpha in this offense. There's so many moving parts. I mean, I said it following the draft. This is going to be as diverse an offense that Josh Allen has ever run. And so, Knox may lead them in touchdowns. That could still happen. He could easily have 8 to 10. But it could be a 2 touchdown game, 3 weeks without a score, another 2 touchdown game. That's just the type of player I think he's going to end up being.
He had 71 targets last year in 15 games. So going back to your Irv Smith thing,
but he missed time in there too.
Yeah, he missed 2 games. He had 71 targets, so he could easily get 80 if he's on that pace again. And you're talking about a team that loses target getters numbers 2 and 3. Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley were 2nd and 3rd on the team in targets, and then Dawson Knox was 1 target behind Sanders. Beasley had 112, Sanders had 72 in only 14 games. So yes, I get it. They added this, they added that, but I just feel like most of the time, if a team lost target getters 2 and 3, we'd be pretty excited about the guy who was 4th, but not in this.
This is almost back to the Eagles thing we were talking about, the silos of targets by position. And Dave has talked about this before, how a lot of times running back targets and tight end targets can be connected. There aren't a lot of teams. There are some, the Eagles last year, who throw a lot of passes to their running backs and a lot of passes to their tight ends. And they made it very obvious this entire offseason that they really want to have a good pass-catching running back. And then they went out and got a very good pass-catching running back.
Yeah. All right.
Maybe 2 of them.
I was just saying that I think the general public is going to be higher on him than you guys.
You're right about that.
Yeah. Let me read some emails. Fantasyfootball@cbsi.com.
What's the fantasy ADP for Dawson Knox?
Great question.
And then tell me Chris Godwin's.
I'm not telling you Chris Godwin's. Since April 1st. Dawson Knox is 108th overall, and I didn't sort by tight end. I will do that now. Dawson Knox,
as a starting tight end.
Tight end 10.
Yep.
Right ahead of Freiermuth, and as of now, Gronkowski. So let's call him tight end 11 when Gronk signs. All right, time for emails. Fantasyfootball@cbsi.com. This is from Danny. Grade the trade in a 1 QB PPR Dynasty League. Give up Javonte Williams, Daniel Jones, and Josh Palmer. Get Austin Eckler, Aaron Rodgers, and a 2023 second-round pick.
If you're a win now, then yes, make that deal.
Yeah. Big upgrade for 2022, for sure.
Right. But he also has Deshaun Watson and Trey Lance at quarterback, and it's a 1-quarterback league.
Well, that
right.
A little bit.
Yeah, if Watson's suspended for, let's say, 6 games and you want to win now, I don't know if you feel great about Lance. I mean, I would be fine with it, but
I guess the thing would be is like, are you short-term versus long-term gain? Because Melvin Gordon gets pushed to a secondary role or gets hurt, Javonte is going to be just as good, if not better, than Austin Eckler.
And I think that the 2023 second might be the second most valuable thing in this trade.
Behind Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I would think that he needed a quarterback. That's why I would make that deal.
Right.
Okay, let's go to
So wait, so if I just want to stop being on the show, I just need to go like this?
yeah.
Okay.
Heath, let's ask you the question now. This is from Jake in Kansas City. I'm in a 2 QB dynasty league with rookie picks 2, 5, 9, 12, and 23. I only have Tannehill and Tua. I wanted to go QB at 2 and or 5, but based on the way the real NFL draft went, it seemed dicey. So I traded picks 2 and 23. Now remember, he has 2, 5, 9, 12, and 23. 4 picks in the top 12. 2 QB dynasty league. I traded pick 2 and pick 23 for Davis Mills and pick 16. Am I crazy to think Davis Mills would go number 1 in a 2 QB dynasty league with this rookie class?
I don't think you're crazy to think that Davis Mills would be the best quarterback in this draft, or maybe even the first quarterback drafted. But I did a Superflex mock yesterday, and the first quarterback taken was pick 12, even in Superflex. So,
Yeah.
What's that?
No, I'm saying mine, he went 7. Pickett went 7.
So, but he's not going pick 2. I don't think any of them.
Right.
Yeah, I don't love this.
Right? Draft
What?
a different position and then make a trade. You know, see if you pick Garrett Wilson or whoever it is at 2, and you can probably get a better quarterback than Davis Mills.
Yeah, if I'm giving up pick 2, I want close to a top 15 quarterback, I would say. I don't think Davis Mills is in the top 15.
This is from Tom.
I probably would be looking for better
23.
bet.
Well, you can't get anything now because he already made the trade.
I'm going to say that's a D.
Okay, let's go to Tom. Last email. Pick 1.3 for Travis Etienne.
I would not.
1-3 for ETN. So where is ETN in terms of the running backs for this class? He's definitely third at worst.
He's not 1.
I think he's
2.
I've got him third.
I would think he's. Yeah, I'd probably put him 2 too. I mean,
2 also, not like second round. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, then you got to factor in receivers.
He's not. I don't know if he's better than London or Burks or the receivers. Though, that's the problem. So, but if you want to get him, you might have to give up 3. You know.
Really interesting question. Really tough one. Very interesting guy going into the year too. We'll see. That's one where you're gonna have to wait for reports, wait for the preseason a little bit to get a better feel. But you got to make that trade now. Seems like we feel like it's fairly even. He thinks it's a bit of a loss.
Well, I mean, what pick would you give up for ETN? Heath?
Probably 6.
So I mean, it's close enough.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
6 or 7.
That's it for today's show. Once again, happy Cinco de Mayo. And I'm very sorry I didn't wish a happy Star Wars.
How many fingers do you need to get to what today's day is?
What do you mean?
How many fingers? There you go.
Little baby hands.
My fat fingers. All right, later, everybody. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. We got another episode of Fantasy Football Today on Friday. We'll see you then.
That's the best outro you could do.